Hey everyone, today we just got a massive update for Kingshot, including the new feature, Mastery. Now I know this feature has a lot going on and it's a bit overwhelming for a lot of you, so I'm trying to make a quick guide here to answer the 4 main questions that hundreds of you have been asking me all morning. How does this work mechanically? Which new resources should I be saving for KVK? What, if anything, do I get in the shops? And what masters and skills should I be prioritizing? So I'm going to tackle those 4 big questions in this video, and then as we all discover the rest of the features together, I'll probably make more content on it if necessary. So first, what is this new mastery feature? Well, the best way I can describe it is that it's basically like a mix between pets, hero advancement, and research. I'll get into all those important details in a moment, but you should expect to unlock this when you hit Generation 3 heroes. Now I know some guides are saying that it's 150 days of server progression for your kingdom to unlock it, but I think that's just the holdover from Whiteout Survival, where that's roughly where it unlocks. But over in the Play Smarter community, I'm hearing that users in Kingdom 1553 have already unlocked it. Meanwhile, over in 1586, they have not unlocked it. And as of today, the difference between these two kingdoms is that 1553 got Generation 3 heroes on day 101 of their kingdom progression, and 1586 did not. They're still in Generation 2. So according to our Kingshot timeline work over at the Kingshot Optimizer website, this means that your kingdom should unlock it sometime between server day 101 to 114, depending on how it lines up with the calendar. In any case, whenever it does unlock, you'll need to be Town Center level 25 or higher in order to see it. But given that it unlocks so late, you're most likely there anyway, unless you're talking about a farm account or something. Alright, so let's go into how this all works mechanically. When you first unlock this feature, you're thrown into Journey mode, more specifically Realm Journey, and I'll get into that in a moment. But the way this works is essentially the main resource exchange of taking your journey supplies, which accumulate up until a certain capacity, into all sorts of rewards, primarily master-related ones. Since you can only use up to 100 of these, make sure you're using them and do not exceed that limit, otherwise it's just wasted resources. Anyway, the mode's kind of fun. There's these little scenarios, many of them with fun flavor text. I really like that they included a callback to that wild bear punching event that I lampooned on my channel. There's also a lot of little choices that you can make along the way. To be honest, as a low spender, I haven't really been able to A/B test all of these exactly, but if I compare my journey to other members of the community, it seems like there's not really that much of a difference between if you make the obvious nice choice versus the not so nice choice. The only potential exception to that is that there are some choices in which you can say I don't really have enough time for that and advance through, possibly skipping a step and getting to your master quicker. But at least when I selected these options in my own experience, I got some decently good items that I would use to upgrade my masters anyway. So I think in the long run, this one probably washes out and I wouldn't worry too much about it. Now another thing I wouldn't worry too much about is the reward chances. Basically when you do a realm encounter, you get a regular one and a master one. There's no clear description anywhere else on what these two mean, but I assume the master one is where you actually advance the storyline to unlock a master. Then irrespective of whichever one of those categories you end up in, you get a chance for a better reward. You'll know which one you got because the text will change to the same color that you see below here. In any case, there's not really much you can do about this. In short, just the more you play, the more chances you'll get at better rewards, and the more you'll advance your master journey to unlock new masters. Now after you've done 60 of these realm journeys, you'll unlock the option to do a Lost Lands journey. This works almost exactly the same way, except it uses a different resource type, an adventure supply, and it allows you to choose which master you want to encounter, including ones that you haven't fully unlocked. And here the instructions say that you'll always get story encounters in Lost Lands Journey, no more of this 70-30 split. So if there's a specific master you're trying to unlock or an upgrade of theirs you're trying to reach, this is a good way to do it in a more targeted fashion. Also, don't be afraid to save those adventure supplies for later, since there's no cap to how many of them that you can hold. In any case, play long enough and very quickly you'll be able to unlock your first master. This unlocks the Master Academy and they take up residence there. So this is where you actually use all of those items that you're picking up in Journey mode. There's basically 4 different things that each master provides, and I'm going to go through them one by one. The first is the master level, and while this can be raised somewhat passively in Journey mode, the most efficient way to do it is to use gifts. As you're doing Journey mode, you'll get different items that each give different amounts of experience. This is very similar to Hero Gear experience, where you have different rarity tiers of items that are all essentially giving the same thing. So you can use them to upgrade your masters, but every 10 levels, just like with pets, you need to advance them to unlock the next 10 levels. And when you go to upgrade your affinity level, you need to have the required amount of emblems for that master. You can also use general master emblems, and these function almost identical as how mythic general hero shards work when you're converting them to a hero-specific shard type. So as a side note, I'm not sure what happens if you go over the amount of experience you need, so maybe just try to use the exact amount so you don't waste anything, just in case. And just like pet advancement, you also get a small additional amount of stats when you do the advancement. And in-game, this relationship advancement is called affinity. So just to make sure you're still with me, we've covered 2 of the 4 benefits so far. We have the mastery level, which gives you a passive stat boost, and we have the affinity level, which increases your stat boost, as well as gives you capacity to get 10 more levels. Now the main skill that this unlocks is called the expertise ability, and just like your pets, they have one central skill, and every time you do an advancement, it grows in level, giving a stronger and stronger bonus. Now please note that this expertise level is different from the main skills that we see for each master. Each master has 4 skills that unlock as you improve their affinity level, and each skill can be upgraded to multiple levels. I think the best way to conceptualize this is with hero abilities, where you have certain abilities that don't unlock until you get to the right hero star level. So similarly here, these require higher and higher affinity levels in order to unlock. Now we'll get into how to prioritize between these a little bit later in the video, but first I do want to show you a unique thing about upgrading these. You can almost think of these as miniature research projects in that you have to spend a certain amount of time researching them in order to unlock them. But unlike other research projects where you first spend the resources and then start the research timer, in this case you actually start the research timer first, and then when it's complete, you can spend the resources to upgrade the skill level. So this means you now have 4 new categories of resources to manage. Gifts, which help you increase mastery level. Emblems, which you use to increase the affinity level that allows you to eventually get more mastery levels. Speed-ups to reduce the amount of time you spend learning those new skills. And manuscripts, which are a resource required to actually advance the skill. Make sense? Now let's talk about which of these we should save for KVK. So what's really helpful is that if we look at the Kingdom of Power event that just ended, you can actually go into the point scoring and see which ones of these will be used for the next KVK. And the things that show up are speed-ups for the mastery skills, and master emblems. There's also a Tome of Wisdom mentioned here, which I'm not quite sure what that means, but I think they mean to say Master's Manuscript, which appears with the emblems in every other location. Maybe this is what they were gonna call manuscripts and change their mind, but I wouldn't get too hung up on it because I even see fire crystal shards here, which should be Truegold dust. And we don't actually know the exact points for each of these until we get the first KVK with them because they're not listed here, and they're slightly different for each event. But we can get some hints from Alliance Brawl. And at least as far as speed-ups are concerned, they seem to be equally weighted as other speed-ups. Master emblems seem to be worth about 3 Truegold, or 2 mythic hero shards, and 100 Master's Manuscripts is equal to 1 Master Emblem. And just like with hero shards, converting the general emblems to master emblems will not get you the points, you actually have to use them on the master. So anyway, even though the exact point totals will be different, we can expect these ratios to be roughly equal since they tend to hold pretty well between events. What we see absent from all of these events is using gifts, so this one's probably safe to use immediately. Which makes sense because pet food operates the same way and is omitted from these events. But this raises the question, should you actually be saving those other items? I would say generally yes, and I may get a little bit of hate from some R4 and R5s out there, but I actually think it's probably worth advancing to get some of these key abilities earlier on. For instance, getting 1 or more extra Forge Hammers per bear hunt over the course of a month will probably help you earn those points back anyway on Forge Hammer Day. And the same is true for Pan, who gives extra intel missions. That means extra Truegold and hero shards every day, which again will help you earn those points back over a month of saving for the next KVK. So if you just unlocked Master's Academy, I wouldn't sweat it too much, and at least for this first month, try and make a beeline for some of the really important skills, which I'll go into in a moment. So now we talked about all these different items, let's talk about different ways to acquire them outside of the regular journey mode. Namely, should we try to get some of these from shops? So one place where you can find these is in the Alliance Championship shop. If you're a low spender like me and have really only been getting the Artisan Visions and the pet stuff when it comes around, you might be sitting on a decent amount of Alliance Championship points. In which case, something like spending the 22,000 points in order to get 15 of these General Master Emblems might not be a bad idea. Potentially also some of the Master's Manuscripts if they were a bottleneck. But I think that's the key. I would only get them if they're an immediate bottleneck to an ability that you really need to increase your advancement. Otherwise, there just aren't enough points to go around to buy these out every week. So if you've just unlocked the feature, getting these probably isn't that bad of a buy. Given the way diminishing returns work in this game, it's quite possible that getting 2 of these mastery emblems for the same price as 1 advanced taming mark might actually do more for your account, since we've had pets for a really long time. But I suspect over the long run, diminishing returns will kick in with these as well, and they'll start to become less and less useful. So again, think about using them only if there's a particular ability or a master that you want to advance in level. Otherwise, I would just let them sit. And a similar thing is true in the Masters Academy if you click the little desk at the bottom. Here you can make 4 daily purchases of 5 journey supplies each for 1,000 gems. And again, if you're just starting out, that's not a bad deal. Because if you have line of sight to an ability that's going to permanently increase your daily Forge Hammer or Truegold income, then that's probably one of the best ways you could spend gems in the game. But over time, if you have unlocked all the masters that are available in your kingdom, and you have unlocked all the key abilities that you need, then this probably becomes a little bit less meaningful. And then maybe I would hang on to those gems for something else. And speaking of gems, you can get some additional adventure supplies in the VIP store provided you're VIP level 9. Now, I'm not, but my buddy Frack of the Frackinator website is, and he shared, you can make 10 purchases of this each week for 750 gems each. Now this sounds like less value than the daily limit that we just looked at, but remember these are adventure supplies that allow us to go on the Lost Lands path for Journey, and that means that it'll always advance your mastery journeys, and therefore make a beeline to a particular master you're trying to unlock or improve. So again, the logic here is the same. If you still need to get one of these amazing abilities that's going to permanently increase your income and accelerate your tempo of play, then it might make sense to get those. But if you're far enough where you've already got those key abilities unlocked and you're just doing it for things like copper horns, well, then it's probably not that great of value because you're spending more gems per additional attempt to get those rewards. So I would set a little bit of a higher bar purchasing these adventure supplies than the daily refills. Now in terms of purchasing with packs, there are a few options. And again, the usual disclaimer here, your decision on whether or not to spend in the game is entirely yours, and I'm not going to suggest one way or the other. But if you do decide to spend, this is one of the best value packs I've seen so far, which is typical of the way that these types of purchases work. The ones where you have to unlock things over time usually end up being the best value. Functions very similar to Hero Rally, which resets every 2 weeks. The more points you get by participating in this game mode, the more things that you unlock. You get a small amount of them for free, but if you purchase the upgrades, you get a large amount of things. And these packs are pretty substantial for at least getting through the early levels of some of these masters. So consider for a moment that getting so many gifts and shards and manuscripts will open up a ton of new abilities to increase the tempo of your account. And if doing something like this allows you to get a couple of extra Forge Hammers per bear, or a few extra Truegold a day a few weeks sooner than you otherwise would have been able, then that's like getting a whole lot more resources that aren't listed here. So that's the way I would think about it for these 2 purchases. Now there are other flash deal packs that pop up when you, for example, advance an affinity level. And these ones are decent value. You're still getting 15 emblems for $5, which is still coming out significantly behind the Adventurer pack, especially when you consider all the other things you get on top of it. But again, if you had a particular bottleneck for a particular master on a particular skill, then this might actually not be a bad choice. And at still worse value are the regular packs. They're all the way here at the bottom, and you can see now we're talking 8 shards for $5 and equivalent amount of value for some of the other packs. To be honest, I haven't gone through and done all the math for each of the new items and what their value should be, just because there's so many new things out right now, but my sense is that these are probably in only buy if you're desperate territory. And also from comparing screenshots with other players that have younger kingdoms than mine, it appears that these packs do not increase in value as your kingdom ages, unlike for example the Truegold packs at the top. That implies that the opportunity cost for spending on other things actually grows over time the older your kingdom is. And where that fits for you on the intersection point is a bit beyond the scope of this video. And if you are on the fence with purchasing some of these packs, let me tell you how you can get them for free with Good Gamer Group. They're a video game market research company that does interviews, focus groups, surveys, and play tests to help major AAA publishers with their game development decisions. And right now, they're running a 15-minute survey that will pay you $15 to share your thoughts on your favorite strategy games like Kingshot, Whiteout Survival, and others. Check out the link below to learn more about the specific participant criteria for this study if you're interested. And if you're watching this in the future, I'll replace it with a general sign-up link so that you can be notified when other fun, easy money opportunities come along to talk about video games. So now we've talked a lot about how this all works and how to acquire all these items, let's talk about how to use them. Now, to really do this justice, I think at some point in the future I'll have to do a proper tier list or hero reviewability style of video like I've done with pets or heroes. And we also need to all play through it and see if there's different generational splits across different kingdom ages. So until I can build out a full answer on that, let me just share with you my initial thoughts on the first two masters that you'll encounter. So the first master we have is Valora, and she is very much in tune to supporting you with Bear Hunt. So first we'll talk about her expertise skill, Hunter Instinct. This one's simple in that it gives you a straight up damage boost to Bear Hunt. Unfortunately, you have to go pretty deep in the tree in order to get that 30%, and that sounds like a lot, and mathematically it is. But consider for a moment that even a 30% increase in your total damage for Bear Hunt won't get you more than one additional Forge Hammer per Bear Hunt. And that's at best. At worst, it does absolutely nothing and you stay in the same tier. So while this one is good and helpful, it isn't alone a sufficiently compelling reason to advance her. Although you'll probably end up maximizing this skill anyway, because if you reach max affinity with Valora, it opens up an entire new research tree for your infantry, but that's a bit beyond the scope of this quick start guide. So we have to go into her additional skills. Dance of the Hunt can go up to an additional 10 levels, and it gives you 300,000 additional rally capacity. But to be honest, I don't think the return on investment here is so great either. I don't want to sound selfish, but if you think about it, investing in this skill helps everyone else in your alliance but you, and only for the rally that you host. So this one may make sense if you're one of the whales in your alliance and your rally is one of the highest damage ones and everyone's itching to get in it. But if you're a regular free-to-play or low-spending player, this is probably not a good use of your resources. Leader by Example is another skill which I think changes a little bit depending on your spend level. If you're a free-to-play player or a low spender, getting these extra enhancement experience parts can be really helpful. And again, this is a permanent increase to your income assuming you're regularly active in Bear Hunt. But if you're somewhat of a spender and you've been playing a relatively long time, then there's a decent chance that you're actually bottlenecked by imbuement or mastery level of your gear and not the hero gear experience. So how helpful this is for you is really dependent on where your current bottleneck is. We look at the next skill, Weapon Obsession. I think that's the right term for it because this is the one I'm most obsessed with. This is a permanent increase in Forge Hammer rewards per Bear Hunt. Again, if the point of Bear Hunt is to get Forge Hammers, then this basically sidesteps the entire damage percentage thing that we talked about at the beginning. It's basically the same as going from someone who scores 1.2 billion damage up to 38.4 billion damage. That's way more than a 30% increase. Assuming, of course, you're rounding out all the other little resources that come at each level. So this is the skill to get. This is the reason to build her. And then our last one is Savage Advantage. Here, Valora's ability increases your personal deployment capacity when you're sending squads to Bear Hunt. Now this one sounds really good on the surface, but it's also not as big of a deal as you might think. If you're already later in the game like I am, and even without being a spender can send 160,000 troops on your own march before even applying pet buffs, then a 30,000 increase in troops is only going to give me 18% more troops that I can send in each march. Then consider what we already know about the damage formula, and I have a video on that and other combat myths linked below in the description. When you consider that the damage is a function of the square root of the number of troops that you send, will equate to about an 8 or 9% increase in damage. And then, if your alliance uses a Bear Hunt approach where you're actually limiting the number of troops you can send to each march anyway, then this doesn't help you whatsoever. So I would be really thoughtful before putting a bunch of resources trying to get this one up. Now, if you haven't been playing as long as me and your march size is much smaller, then this is going to have a bigger impact for you than it does for me. But even if you were doubling the amount of troops that you would send, which I think is being generous because 30,000 is a pretty small number, due to that square root function, you would still only get a roughly 40% increase in damage that you're dealing. So my main takeaways for Valora is that the reason to build her is for this Weapon Obsession ability, and possibly for Leader by Example if it makes sense for you. Everything else sounds really good, but if you understand the way combat mechanics work in this game, you'll see that it isn't that big of a deal. And then of course we have Pan, who I have to look at through this preview panel. So he comes with this Efficient Reserves ability, and each level increase allows you to get more of them per day. The way you get it is by sending out troops for gathering, but the cap is easy enough to hit since we're already talking players who are past 100 days in game. Now these chests do contain a small chance to get Truegold, as well as some gems and hero gear experience. From one of the screenshots I've seen, it contains a 1% chance to get 10 Truegold and a 20% chance to get 1 Truegold. That gives you an expected value of 0.3 Truegold per chest, or even at level 1 with a daily cap of 10 chests, that's 3 Truegold per day. Just for having unlocked Pan. and it continues to escalate from there as he continues to grow, so I think this is a pretty good ability if you're an active daily player, and a significant one to help you increase the tempo of your account. I already talked about this Falconer ability, but it gives you more Watchtower intel missions every day. Most importantly, that means more Truegold every day, and somewhat helpfully, it means more hero shards every day for older generation heroes. And at worst case, it gives you some more Champagne Fair tickets with those extra shards, which allows you to get widgets and other important items. He also has an extra stamina increase ability, and remember it's tied to the Storehouse Governor stamina, so that means it's multiplied by 2 since you get that twice per day, and this is a great way to offset all of those extra intel missions you'll be doing. Master Architect speeds up the efficiency of construction by up to 8 hours for every new build. I'm going to be honest, this one isn't that great, because by the time most players are getting this all the way down to level 5, they're probably pretty deep into Truegold territory. And as I've said in other videos, even if you're a free-to-play player or a low spender, your bottleneck is more likely to be Truegold for advancement rather than construction speedups. So if you're watching this in the far future and your kingdom just hit Generation 3 heroes and you're not really bottlenecked by Truegold, then yes, I suppose this can be somewhat helpful, but it's not really going to move the needle on your advancement at this point. And then his last skill is Ways and Means, which gives you not only additional mystery badges, but also more free refreshes for the mystery store every day. What this translates to is more widgets. Especially if you're a free-to-play player, this is a huge deal. And if for some reason you've been super unlucky, whenever you hit this refresh button, sometimes some of these items come up for free. So getting more free refreshes of this store every day gives you more chances at discounted widgets, as well as free things like Forge Hammers. So overall, Pan is an amazing growth hero, and I think he has a more diverse set of useful skills for the player than Velora does. Although I can't stress enough how good Velora's Weapon Obsession skill is. So anyway, this video should help get you off on the right foot and get off to a flying start and accelerate the tempo of your game as soon as you unlock Mastery. And of course, a special thank you to my Sloth Squad channel members whose continued support helps make guides like these possible. This event literally just came out for me this morning, so be sure to add in the comments if you have any additional tips and tricks that are helpful for other players, and also be sure to just go and check and see what other people are saying. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay up to date with the latest information I post about Kingshot. Thanks again for watching, and happy gaming out there.